Hey sellers, welcome to my discussion on how to harness the power of eBay data to optimize your business. My name is Lucan McCrandle, and I'm a Senior Product Manager with the Seller Experience Group at eBay. For today's agenda, we'll start by taking a look at Terapeak product research. And then we'll look at category research by focusing on Terapeak sourcing insights. And finally, we'll take a look at these two products in action to see how you can get the most out of your data. Terapeak product research has been with eBay for about 4 years. Terapeak product research allows you to take keywords and find sold products that match those keywords. We also provide you with aggregate metrics like average price, sell-through rate, and total items sold. On top of that, we provide you with filters like top-selling item, item specifics like color or brand, as well as seller location to focus on specific products that match exactly what you're looking for. We provide you with detailed graphs that show you data visualizations that illustrate trends for products, and it's available to all sellers who use the Seller Hub today. Terapeak Sourcing Insights is a relatively new product that we introduced in 2021. It allows you to compare different categories by looking at demand and supply signals, allowing you to focus on things like search volume, total active listings, as well as the sell-through rate for particular items within that category. You're able to compare and contrast different categories and then dive deep to understand top opportunities within those categories, trending listings, and metrics over the past 12 months. It's available to all sellers who have a Seller Store subscription of Basic or above. Let's take a look at these two products when used together and see how you can get the most out of your data. So let's begin by looking at category research. In this scenario, we'll take a look at athletic shoes. Athletic shoes provides a good opportunity because its search to listing ratio or demand to supply ratio and sell-through rate are better than those of its parent category, men's shoes. On top of that, the high sell-through rate and low return rate just indicate that it's a good sustainable opportunity overall. And on top of that, the high search volume of 14.5 million in the past 30 days indicates that there's an enormous amount of buyer interest for athletic shoes. So diving into athletic shoes, let's take a look at some of the data visualizations that we find there. We can see that the sold quantity of items indicates that there may be some seasonality to this category. However, what's not shown here is that the supply data indicates increasing numbers of listings in this category over time. And the engagement data also indicates the same. So while there has been some seasonality in the past, it looks like interest is increasing going forward, and it's probably a good idea for me to source and sell in this listing, in this category in the future. But what should we sell in this category? Well, let's scroll down a little bit and explore some item-specific combinations. The first thing that stands out to me is that the Nike brand of products sells better than the next 4 brands combined. On top of that, the sell-through rate and return rate for Nike are very sustainable. And we can also see that there are 5 particular shoe sizes that do well for Nike branded products in particular. So let's bring some of this information to Terapeak product research. In Terapeak product research, I'm going to start by just using the brand as a broad search. I'm going to focus on the last 90 days because it gives me a little bit more information about how this brand has performed over the last quarter. And I can see that over 100,000 successful sellers have sold something in that period. They also sold around 500,000 items, which tells us that each seller is selling on average about 5 items within a 90-day period. And that to me looks like a good opportunity. Now, I can refine this even further by adding some of the item specifics that we saw in Sourcing Insights. By clicking on the More filters, I can add all of the 5 shoe sizes that we saw. And on top of that, I'm going to add a condition, new with box, and a format, fixed price, because that represents my business model. Now I can take a look at some of the listings that are retrieved in the results below. If I were interested, I could click into each of these listings to learn more about how they were constructed and why they sold. But for the moment, I actually want to focus on seeing if I can identify any patterns within these listings. And the first thing that stands out to me is Nike Air Jordan for infrared retro gray sneakers show up 3 times. There are 3 different listings from 3 different sellers. And on top of that, those sellers sold a total of 289 items. Now, that's really important because this is just the first page of results alone. It shows us the most popular listings within the date range that we were looking at. And I can infer that there are probably more versions of this product on subsequent pages. So let's take a look at one of these listings and see why it sold. One of the most important things is the authenticity guarantee associated with this listing. Most sneakers sold in this category are going to be part of this program, and that program tells you whether or not the item that's on sale is exactly what it says it is. It's not counterfeit, it's not a poor knockoff, it is that Nike shoe. So if I wanted to compete, I'm going to have to opt into this so that my buyers know that what they're buying is exactly what they want. On top of that, I can also see that this seller has included the style code in their listing. Style code is very important. It may seem like a technical piece of information that most buyers aren't aware of, but we do know that over time buyers have gotten more and more familiar with this because it helps them identify a specific sneaker. It's not going to be any other sneaker. That style code is unique to this particular model. So savvy buyers will search for that in particular so that the results they get only match the exact sneaker they want to buy. If I wanted to list this, I should include the style code. The other thing that I can see is that from a competitive perspective, the handling time for this listing is relatively high. If I can get my handling time lower, there's a strong likelihood that I'm going to outcompete this listing and others like it. Now let's bring this information back to Terapeak product research. I'm going to take some of the keywords that we just saw and add a search for Nike Jordan 4 infrared. I'm also going to combine that with the OR operator and use the style code as well, which will bring the results from both of these distinct searches into a single set of results. And by looking at the last 30 days, I can see that these products sold roughly $214,000, which presents a very good opportunity for me as a seller who wants to capitalize on this trend. I've added the appropriate filters, including the condition and the format, so I know that I'm looking at exactly what I would like to sell, and I'm encouraged by the amount of sales that were generated. So looking at some of the data visualizations for this specific set of results, I can look at the price trends to see where most listings were priced. And the bulk of them were between $200 and $300, with the vast majority being priced between $240 and $280. Now, on top of that, I can see that there were over 800 items sold with a sell-through rate of 40%. This means that there are very strong sales in this category, and there's a likelihood that if I were to list that product, I would sell within a 30-day period. On top of that, if I can get it for less than $240, there's a very strong likelihood I'm going to make a profit. So this examines a very good first example for first-time users of sourcing insights. Athletic shoes is what we call a structured category, which means that a lot of sellers use item specifics, and they use those item specifics consistently from product to product. Not all categories are made equal, and some don't use item specifics as frequently or as consistently. Now let's hop into a demo to explore a scenario like that, so we can show you how to get the most out of sourcing insights, even when the data isn't available offhand.
Hello again, sellers. In the previous example, we looked at men's athletic shoes. This was a great example for first-time sourcing insights users because it presents a category that's currently trending that also has item specifics that can point us towards a specific brand or product. However, not all categories are created equal. Some categories are seasonal, which means they're not selling well right now, but they may sell well in the future. And on top of that, the item specifics in some categories may not be as well defined. That doesn't mean you don't want to sell in that category because there may be very good buyer demand. So let's explore one of these examples, focusing on coats, jackets, and vests in women's clothing. Now, when we go into the category page for coats, jackets, and vests, we can see a lot of the similar data visualizations we saw in athletic shoes. Click-through rate over time, which shows us the approximate buyer engagement with listings from this category in search results. We can see that buyer engagement peaked over the course of December and January of last year. We can also see that Total listings over time peaked in November, December, and January as well. And lastly, we can also see that total items sold over time were at their highest in October, November, and December, and were sustained into January. So this kind of allies with my suspicion that coats, jackets, and vests is a seasonal category. As a result, it may be best to start sourcing for items in this category now so that I can list them for the coming months of October, November, and December, given that we're in late September already. In order to get a sense of what I should source, I'm going to scroll down to the top opportunities, which represent, as we explored in athletic shoes, combinations of item specifics that sell well within this category. However, we don't see the same quality data here as we saw in athletic shoes. In fact, we don't see any brands at all. What we do see are sizes and colors that sell frequently within this category. And while that might not seem like enough to make a decision about what to source, we can take this information and bring it to Terapeak Product Research in order to help us make an informed sourcing decision. So let's see what that's like in action. Now that we're in product research, we can build a search that will help us identify specific products that sold well in this category during the seasonal months. To that end, before I construct my search, I'm actually going to select a custom date range. Given that we know that this specific category has seasonal sales during the months of October, November, and December, I'm going to focus on those months by selecting a date range from October 15th to December 15th, 2021. This actually looks at the peak holiday seasonal months that occur right before the end of year holidays. This should also help us focus in on the peak seasonal sales for products that people buy during the winter. Now, to complement this date range, I'm going to start with a very broad search term, because there were no specific brands or keywords that I could use to identify something that I wanted to search for initially. This will ensure that I'm capturing a broad set of results that I can hopefully reduce using filters to a more targeted set of results that I'll then be able to use to make a sourcing decision. So now that I've received my search result set, before I do anything at all, I'm going to actually lock my selected filters. This means that no matter what changes we make elsewhere, either adding or removing filters, adding or removing keywords, or even changing the date range, we'll still be able to retain any of the filters that I hadn't changed before, which means that I'll be looking at apples to apples comparisons of specific sets of data. Now, even though we didn't have a specific brand or model to reference, we did have 3 specific sizes that we saw occur more frequently in this category. And we had 2 specific colors that we know sell more frequently within this category. So I'm going to apply these sizes and these colors in order to narrow down the broad results that I got from my first keyword search. In addition, I'm going to add a condition filter, and I'm going to add a format filter, because this specific condition and format reflect my selling business model, and it will ensure that the results that I get are able to sustain that business model. When I look down at my set of results, the first thing I see are aggregate metrics that indicate that there were about 30,000 items sold matching these filters within that date range from last year, across roughly 9,000 sellers, with a relatively low sell-through rate. There's also a very large sold price range, and it's not really representative of the average sold price. So, what can I do to help narrow down these results even more? Well, let's look at some of the listings that sold over this time period and see if there are certain things that occur more frequently than others to help us search for a more specific product. I see there are a number of brand names that occur: Alpine Swiss, the North Face, Adidas, and likely some others. However, those are the three that stand out to me right away. So I'm going to conduct a browser search to help me identify a specific frequency within the result set below. So let's look for the North Face. We can see that just on this first page of results, there were 16 different listings that included the North Face, either in their title or in their item specifics. Looking at the next most frequent brand that we saw, Adidas, there were only 5 listings that occurred on the first page of results. And let's look at Alpine Swiss. There was only 1 brand that showed up there. So this is a very quick and easy way that we can use our built-in browser capabilities to help us identify what kind of brands show up more frequently than others. And in addition, because we're looking at the first page of results, which include some of the most popular listings, what we can assume and extrapolate is that North Face is likely going to occur frequently on other pages as well. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to go back up to our search results, and I'm going to start with a quotation mark and encapsulate the phrase "the North Face" in quotations. I'm also going to add the operator "or" and include another search phrase, TNF, which is an acronym that a lot of sellers were using for the North Face in their listing titles. By using "or," I'm going to capture the results from both of these different searches in a single set of results. So let's see what that looks like in action. After clicking research again, I can see that I've narrowed down my result set even further. The sold price range is tighter. There are fewer items that were sold across a fewer number of sellers, meaning that I'm getting a much more specific set of results, and I already have a much better sell-through rate, so I can tell that the North Face is leading me in the right direction. I'm going to go down even further to see if I can look at any trends in terms of models across the North Face, just like we did when we were looking for trending brands. So I'm going to use my built-in browser locate capability again, and I'm going to look at some of the frequently occurring keywords in the results set below. Some models that I can see include Metropolis, Apex, Glacier, Gotham. So let's see how frequently some of these occur. Let's start with Gotham first. We have 3 results in the sold items page on the first page of results. Glacier gives us 2 listings. Apex gives us 6 listings. And Metropolis gives us 4 listings. So it looks like Apex occurs more frequently than some of the other models associated with the North Face brand. So I'm going to go up and try to filter out my results even further by encapsulating these 2 search phrases that I combine together in a bracket and including the operator "and." "And" is different from "or" because while "or" gives us the combination of 2 different result sets, "and" only retrieves the similarities between 2 different result sets. So I'm going to specifically look for Apex as a model name, and this means that I'm only going to get results that are specifically the North Face and Apex, and I'll exclude any of the other North Face content that would have been sold at that time. Now, this has given me an even tighter set of results. I have a smaller number of total items sold across a smaller number of sellers, which means that I'm likely isolating a very specific product. My sold price range has decreased as well, and just to make sure, I'm going to go down and look at my set of results. One thing that stands out immediately is that I'm including an orange jacket in here for some reason. Now, because we filtered for black, it's likely that one of the item specifics for color here is black. But we didn't see orange show up in sourcing insights, so I'm actually going to make sure that we don't bring that or other listings like it into my result set, just to make sure that the information that I'm getting about what these products sold for is as accurate to a specific product as possible. In order to do that, I'm going to include brackets around the term apex, and I'm going to say exclude the word orange using the little minus sign immediately before the word. And then I'm going to search for this again. We've seen that's adjusted the results as well, and that orange product is no longer coming up in my result set. So I think I've found a very tight set of results here. And as a result, there's some types of information that I can glean from this. However, I can still see that there's a fairly broad sold price range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at some of the data visualizations that we include in product research. Just like with sourcing insights, these data visualizations can be used to get some additional information to help you make a decision about what to source. I can see that most of the sales for products like this capped out at around $145. So I'm going to exclude any of the prices above that by adding a max price filter, $145. Now, I'm going to go back to that price distribution graph now that we've excluded some of those higher price ranges to see if there's a solid cluster of price ranges that we can focus on. And while there are some peaks around some lower prices, I obviously want to maximize my profit as much as possible, so I'm going to focus on some of the higher priced items and look at the cluster around the $122 to $134 mark, including those two that are immediately adjacent to it. And as a result, I'm going to add a minimum price filter to complement my maximum price filter of $110. Now, this is a set of aggregate metrics that I can use to make a decision. The sold price range is much tighter, giving me an average sold price of $125. I have 28 items sold across 15 sellers, which indicates that there's a variety of sellers who are selling this product, and each one of them is selling more than one. On top of that, roughly 70% of listings sell, which means that not only am I likely to be able to compete, but there's a strong likelihood that I will make a sale, and there's an even stronger likelihood that I'll probably be able to make more than one. And if I can find a product that matches the North Face Apex in black or blue, there's a very strong likelihood that if I can get it below $125, I will be able to turn a profit on that. So not only will I be able to sell at least one of these items, but there's a strong likelihood that I'll be able to make a profit off of that. And there's a possibility that I'll be able to sell more and compete with the sellers that are already selling this product. So, based on this, I think I'm going to go out into the field and start looking for products that match this specific search. And when I'm out there, I may want to refer to this search again. As a result, I'm going to use another one of my browser's built-in features, the ability to bookmark this tab, and I'm going to bookmark the search that I've just built. One of the benefits to Terapeak is that all of these filters and keywords and date ranges that we've added are stored in the URL. And as a result, when you bookmark the URL, it's bookmarking the exact search that you've just built. And this means that I will be able to revisit that search wherever I can access my bookmarks. And when I'm in the field, I'll be able to look this up on my mobile device to get a sense of how to make decisions about products that I find that match the search result set based on the aggregate metrics that I'm seeing here. So hopefully that helps you better determine how to source and list products using a combination of sourcing insights and Terapeak product research. Until next time, happy sourcing and happy selling.
Welcome back. Hopefully you found that demo helpful. Now, that brings us to the end of today's presentation, and there are some key takeaways that I think are important. First of all, Sourcing Insights tells you which categories are trending now. On top of that, Sourcing Insights can help you identify seasonal trends and item-specific combinations that sell well. It's even more powerful when combined with product research. With product research, I can take those item specifics found in Sourcing Insights and use them as keywords or filters to help identify trending products. That brings us to the end of our presentation. Again, my name is Lucan McCrandle, and I'm a Senior Product Manager for the Seller Experience team at eBay. Until next time, happy sourcing and happy selling.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining. I'm happy to facilitate a Q&A here for the next few minutes relating to the how to harness your insights, or how to harness eBay data to provide sales insights on eBay. And if you have any questions, please let me know now. So one of the comments that just came up in the Q&A was from Leo Spinos. He's indicated that he feels like there's a disconnect between sellers being implored to add details to a listing and the search function only seeming to index by item name. So the search function doesn't just index by item name. There are two fields within a listing that we search within using keyword search, the item title and the item description. We use keyword search in those capacities because both of those fields are what we call unstructured data. So you can kind of put whatever you want into those fields, sometimes including emojis. There's numbers and letters that can be used to any capacity up to, I think, 80 characters. There's no way to properly structure that in the back end so we can search those fields by filters. When we use filters to modify your search results, what we're looking at are item specifics and other structured pieces of data like what category you've listed in. So those are the two different types of fields we look at, unstructured and structured data. And as a result, we give you the ability to search using keywords and then to refine those using the filters that we provide on hand. How can you use this with unique items? So one of the questions that just came up in the chat was from Anna Hunt, asking how we can use this for unique items. I'm assuming those are items like antiques or collectibles that don't sell very frequently. One thing that's very useful is the Sourcing Insights tool, especially around unique items like this, because Sourcing Insights allows you to view some trends that go back up to a year in the past so that you can see what kind of detail there is about items that have sold well in those categories. Now, obviously, when you're looking at very unique items, a lot of the sales around those items are going to be hit and miss. But there are probably attributes concerning those items that are more common. Let's say you're selling unique furniture. There are going to be elements about that furniture item that are common to other listings, like the year it was made or roughly the general time or era that it was made in, the materials that are made, or that the item is made from. And those are elements that you can use to look for similar insights related to similar listings to give you some idea of how to price the item that you're trying to sell. There's a question in the chat from Sandy Vita. Will eBay include a UPC barcode scanner option? It is so helpful to scan an item and get to the sell-through rate, pricing, etc. I think that's a great suggestion. And one of the things that we would like to do is be able to draw a better comparison between the unique identifiers for an item and the item itself. And that works in categories that are very structured, like the shoes example that we just saw. But it doesn't work as well in categories where we are not requiring certain item specifics or where the data is not as refined. And in those cases, we may not have every single product that you can list in those categories in our catalog. Part of that is because we, as eBay, want to give sellers the freedom to define items in whatever way they deem fit, especially in areas where there are less structured details about the items that they're selling. So in those cases, it's not as easy to implement a UPC scanner, but we still understand that there are a large number of cases where it may be useful. So
One of the areas where you might see something similar to that in the future is in the eBay native mobile app for iOS and Android. It's not something that we currently have on the roadmap, but it is definitely something that we would be interested in reaching out to you to learn more about. So if that is of interest to you, please get in touch with an eBay representative or provide some feedback through the Seek response form so that we know how important features like that are to you. There's another question from Donald Butts. I am a new seller. Where can you find a list of the operators, for example, or and that you use for your product research in the demo? So, Donald, in Terapeak, there is a little section that floats to the right of your screen. It has a question mark on it, and it also has a feedback form that you can access. If you click on that question mark, there is an FAQ that's exposed that shows you exactly what kind of operators to use and how to use them. It should give you a fairly good overview of how to construct a query like I did in the demo. So please check that out. That's also where you can submit feedback. So another question from Leo Spinos, specifically in regards to unique items like furniture. Many of these can apply to widely different categories, each with different sets of possible structured details. Is there some way of fixing it? Maybe ability to list in multiple categories simultaneously. I think that's a great piece of recommendation. It would certainly help you publish one listing and be able to have that show up in searches for different categories. I think it's a piece of feedback I'd love to take back to our team, and hopefully we can make something like that happen in the future. Randall Arthur asks, you type to highlight certain keywords in your results. I can't find that field. So that is not part of Terapeak as a whole. That is something that most modern browsers can support. So if you're in Google Chrome or Firefox or most other browser types, using a Mac, you can press Command plus F, and that will give you a search bar that allows you to search for certain keywords on the page that you're on. Using a PC, I believe that's Control F. So you should be able to bring up that little search field for any browser that you're using those hotkeys. So you press Command F at the same time or Control F at the same time. I think those are most of the questions. Nikisha Spear asks, how do you boost traffic to your store and get sales up? So there's a couple of different things that you can do in order to direct traffic to your seller store. One of the most useful ways of doing that is by participating in eBay ads. A lot of those ads can be applied across the eBay site, so your listings will show up in various locations across eBay. Some ads can be used to promote your listings externally, and some are ads that you can apply to your specific listing. So if you want to promote one listing in particular, you can use the eBay promoted listing service. All of those come with a specific fee, and you can manage how much you're willing to spend, what kind of placement you would like to see, all within the eBay Seller Hub. In addition to that, I would recommend using the basic tools that we have for things like price guidance. So when you're creating a listing, you can either refer to Terapeak in the research tab, or you can use the price guidance capabilities within the listing flow. And that will usually help draw more buyers to your listings if you're pricing competitively. So that's a fairly important tip. And then beyond that, I think just looking at listings that do well to identify keywords that are used frequently will help you surface your listings in search results as much as possible to make sure that you're able to compete with some of the bigger or more experienced sellers out there. Rebecca Boudet mentions, I noticed that there isn't really a category for prop replicas, which are bigger in the collectible toys market. I can only put my prop replica items in action figures or other categories. It doesn't really work. Any suggestions? I don't have any specific suggestions around that. What I would recommend is reaching out to global customer support, because they may be able to help direct you in the right direction. There are literally tens of thousands of possible categories within eBay, and even experts internal to us don't know every single category. So they would likely be able to put you in touch with some market manager, or provide similar information that would help you find the right path. I think that's it for our time today. I hope I've been able to cover as many questions as possible. Please let us know if you do have any further questions by reaching out to, again, customer support, or any of the individuals who may have organized these events that are able to be in contact with sellers individually. And hopefully they'll be able to pass that feedback on to us. In addition, within the Seller Hub, in the research tab, as I mentioned, there is a form that you can access that provides feedback directly to myself and other members of the research team. So as you leave feedback there, we'll definitely consume it, and hopefully be able to reply. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great afternoon or evening wherever you are in the world. And until next time, take care.